pledge our lives to thee. Every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation. Every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation.
Please do remain standing. Dr. Vishy Bihari is going to read the invocation. Dr. Bihari.
Let us bow our heads in prayer. Almighty God, we are humbled by the opportunity presented to us today, where we can gather in this hybrid format to continue a long-standing tradition of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association, a tradition where there is peaceful transfer of governance of the association. We do not take this for granted. We give thanks for the past year, which was unprecedented, but which also tested our abilities to be innovative and to persevere so that the mandates of the association could be fulfilled. Thank you for our support staff and for the honorees today who have been stalwarts and exemplars to us all, and on those whose shoulders we stand. As we start another chapter, we crave your continued guidance and wisdom. In your mighty name we pray.
Please be seated. Good evening. My name is Lexley Pinto Pereira, and I'm here simply to navigate us all to this very interesting program that the administrative branch of the T&TMA has crafted this evening. In priority, we welcome very warmly the Minister of Health, the Honorable Terence Dialsing. Strongly aware of your crowded agenda, we are deeply grateful that you join us this afternoon, and we do thank you for your continued commitment to the association. Welcome Dr. Darren Dukaran, the reigning president of the TT Medical Association, and Dr. Vishy Bihari, the president-elect. We also welcome past presidents, dignitaries online, council members, attendees, those in cyberspace, and those who are here with us on terra firma, and the membership in large. The Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association was born out of the British Medical Association while the country was an erstwhile colony of the then empire, and it became an autonomous and independent body by an act of parliament in 1974. Its aims were clear: to advance the medical sciences and the allied sciences, and to protect the interests and the honor of its members. Through its 5 branches in the 2 islands of the Republic, it executes extremely interesting continuing medical education activities. But the flagship event is this annual meet where the new president is installed and stalwarts of the association are celebrated. This is what gets us together this afternoon, and we are honored to open the proceedings with the Minister of Health, the Honorable Terence Dialsing. Please join me in welcoming the Minister of Health of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Terence Dialsing. Minister.
Thank you very much. Lexley and I go back a long way. We know each other from a previous life, so I think I'm entitled to call her Lexley. Lexley is a great mind, a great person, and it's so nice to see you after so many years. Dr. Vishy Bihari, incoming president of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association. Dr. Darren Dukuram, outgoing president of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association. Tonight's honoree, Dr. George Shamley, who is being honored for his role in family medicine. I think it is wonderful that the T&TMA recognizes family medicine. I have been a big advocate for family medicine over the years, and I'm glad to see him being honored tonight. I will miss Sully tonight, Dr. Sulaiman Juman, who normally brings an added pleasure to me in the way he gives his loyal pledge, either singing soca or some other form of local entertainment. But circumstances demand that we do things differently. Life is a funny thing. A year ago, when we met at Lakshmi, I was preparing to exit, not exit public life, but that was a year for general election. And when you're a minister, you start to wind down and visit facilities and talk to people who we have made bonds with over the past 5 years. But as the saying goes, if you tell God your plans, he will laugh at you. And I'm sure many of you had made plans for last year to do things, maybe to get married, to go on a cruise, to go on a trip, to have a wedding. But COVID has put a different spin on life. And here we are gathered in 10, because the public health regulations, although they don't govern public meetings, I kept saying in my press conferences, while the letter of the law is 10 in the public setting, follow it in your private settings. It is both the letter of the law, but also the spirit of the law. So thank you, T&TMA, for recognizing the spirit of the law. My prepared remarks are now made redundant because of events over the past 2 hours, which is going to lead me to make a pretty significant announcement to the national community. And we had invited members of the media to attend virtually, so I'm hoping that they are here. My prepared remarks, which are here, as I say, have now been rendered redundant. And I will go straight to the issue. This global pandemic that we are in has seen countries like the United States having 4,000 deaths per day quite recently. And I recently said, if we did not take the actions we did as a government, and if we did not have the buy-in of the population, when you prorate that down to a population of 1.4, it will mean 17 people a day will die in Trinidad and Tobago if we were like the United States. Think about that. To hear 4,000 deaths per day in the US, after a while it runs off your back. But when you take it down to the Trinidad and Tobago context, could this small country afford 17 deaths per day? Could we afford 510 deaths per month? Because that is what it will work out to. And 6,120 deaths per year. To date, we have had approximately 135, and our deepest condolences to those families. The government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago took decisive steps from day one to manage the global pandemic. And I think we have done not reasonably well. We have done very, very well as compared to other countries both near and far. Thank you. Our civil liberties are intact. We never had a curfew. Your rights under the Constitution were always guaranteed, which is a far cry from many countries near and far. Fast forward to today. The hope to manage this pandemic is a vaccine. For those of us, and I'm sure everybody in this room and every member of T&TMA listening virtually, Sully, I hope you are listening. Terry Simangal, I hope you are listening, and members of the media. The vaccine rollout across the globe has proven to be problematic, has proven to be very, very problematic. Rows are breaking up across borders. The effects of Brexit are rearing its head. Some countries have taken a decision that they will roll out all their doses, not knowing whether they will get a batch of vaccines for the second shot as recommended by manufacturers. We have been preparing for the receipt of vaccines since last year. The Honorable Prime Minister would have signed on to an expression of interest in July 18th last year. No, he would have received the documents from Dr. Carissa Etienne July 18th last year. We would have signed that expression of interest for the COVAX facility by August, I believe, and we signed on. So I want to thank the Honorable Prime Minister for assuming his leadership position in that. From then to now, the ministry and myself, we have been working tirelessly behind the scenes. You would not know the amount of work it takes behind the scenes to manage a global pandemic. You would not believe it. You just would not believe it. Sleepless nights, not only for myself, but I also want to recognize people like the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Roshan Parasram, who was voted Individual of the Year by the Express newspapers. I think it's an honor richly deserved. But there are other people in the ministry who have been working equally as hard behind the scenes, and I will honor them at some future time. The point is, without that team working there, we could not be where we are today. We have been preparing to receive our vaccines through 3 channels. One, the COVAX facility, which I think you all know about, is a WHO facility. Their objective is to deliver 20%, about 2 billion doses of vaccines to the most deserving countries around the world to end the acute stage of the pandemic by the end of 2021. We have been planning behind the scenes, and tonight I want to, before I get to the big announcement, to tell you what some of those plans are so you could understand where the ministry is with this. In the planning, we are having a major symposium next week, Sunday, 1 p.m., jointly held by the Ministry of Health and the University of the West Indies. At that symposium, all and every major stakeholder will be there to address 2 issues. One, vaccine hesitancy and the rollout of the vaccines. T&TMA is invited. I have spoken to your incoming president already. TTRNA, President Eddie Stewart, Medical Association, Pharmacy Board, Mr. Andrew Rahaman, Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Gabriel Faria, religion through the IRO. We have also invited members from the Ministry of National Security, because we are going to be leaning on the resources of the Ministry of National Security to provide logistical support and other types of support. The Energy Chamber has been very kind to us in lending logistical and management support behind the scenes, and I will tell you where that will come in very, very soon. So all major stakeholders are going to be invited to this symposium at 1 p.m. next week, Sunday, where I said the 2 major issues are vaccine hesitancy and the rollout. I now want to get to our preparation for the rollout and the role of the T&TMA. The rollout is going to be done, I've been using this word parallel for a long time, but it's the only way to do this. there are going to be two systems of rollout. One in the public sector, managed by the Ministry of Health, and two in the private sector, managed by the private sector, but with oversight at the Ministry of Health in the person of Dr. Stuart Smith, the Health Systems Advisor. The Ministry of Health has recognized, because of the emergence of the variants, whether it's the South African variant, now the Brazilian variant, the UK variant, and the Brazilian variant, as you know, is causing a lot of problems. We have decided to scale up the vaccination program, both in terms of quantity, but more importantly, in terms of time. The science tells us if you don't want these variants to become entrenched, you need to vaccinate your population as quickly as humanly possible. I have also reached out today personally to 4 or 5 of the private hospitals. They are going to be a part of this. So the private sector is going to be doing their vaccination program in tandem with the public sector. What we are aiming to do is to take the vaccinations to people instead of people coming for the vaccinations. I must tell you, I was heartened today in speaking to owners and practitioners in the private sector. I spoke to about 4 or 5 of them. And I told them, I will give you the vaccines free. All I ask is that you give it away free. And I got absolutely no hesitation. And they will get the vaccines not only for their frontline workers, not only for their patients, but they have also agreed for their immediate communities. So we are taking the vaccines to people as close as humanly possible. To that end, you can't have a vaccination program if you don't have people behind it. And Dr. Shamli was reminding me before the start that when he was a young whippersnapper, that he was involved in the yellow fever vaccination drive decades ago through the T&TMA. Well, T&TMA, you are now called upon to rise to the occasion one more time to help us with a mass vaccination program. And I know I have your support. We have been preparing for this day when we receive vaccines. We have already stockpiled, because we can't wait until the vaccine reaches here to stockpile supplies, consumables. We have already stockpiled 1.5 million syringes. It's there. We have already stockpiled 1 million alcohol swabs. It's there. We are currently doing our desktop training, and then we go out and we do 3 real-life field training programs for vaccinations. We'll be doing 1 in Couva, 1 in Arima, and 1 in Tobago. That will help us then develop our SOPs, or standard operating procedures, which we will then disseminate to T&TMA. So your doctors, the private sector, will know what they are supposed to do. So we have been stockpiling and creating a strategic stockpile of 1.5 million syringes, alcohol swabs, everything. We currently have in country the capacity to store over 300,000 vaccines that need to be stored at 2 to 8 degrees, which is the AstraZeneca, in case we get that. We also have the capacity to store in country right now the capacity to store about 200 Pfizer vaccines, because that has to be stored at -70 in case we get that. And we have similar capacity to store the Moderna vaccine at -20 in case we get that. Now for the good news. 2 hours ago, I was informed by PAHO, by Dr. Erica Wheeler, that through the COVAX facility, and let me explain, we are pursuing the acquisition of vaccines through 3 channels. 1, COVAX. 2, bilateral talks with the vaccine manufacturers themselves, like Pfizer, like Moderna, like AstraZeneca, like Sinopharm from China. And 3, we are also pursuing a CARICOM initiative using the African Medical Council to procure vaccines for this region. So we are pursuing the acquisition of vaccines through 3 channels. I can tell you now, as of 4 o'clock this afternoon, COVAX has allocated Trinidad and Tobago between 100 to 117,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine for Trinidad and Tobago. And I think that deserves a round of applause. That is going to be a major development for us. The AstraZeneca vaccines, according to WHO, this is not me speaking, all things being equal, should arrive in country by the end of February to the beginning of March. My initial submission to you in the public domain was March, so we seem to be a little way ahead. So we are going to be receiving between 100,000 to 120,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine in Trinidad and Tobago, according to the COVAX facility, by the end of March. In the context of what is happening around the world, this is a significant development for small Trinidad and Tobago. And I want to thank Dr. Erica Wheeler of PAHO for not only working with me, but also putting up with me behind the scenes. It means, therefore, with 100,000 doses of vaccines, and that's the first tranche, that's not the only shipment, that's the first tranche. It means we can now vaccinate 50,000 persons, because each person has to receive 2 shots. And as I said, since December, we will be following the science, and once a person is vaccinated, we will reserve that second dose for that person. So we will not be giving away 100,000 to 100,000 persons, and then they don't know when and if they will get their second dose. So I want to make that abundantly clear. Now that we have this number, we will now sit down at the ministry. Well, actually, I started 2 hours ago, starting to decide now how we will divide this between the public sector response and the private sector response. If you recall, during the 2018 floods, the T&TMA and private practitioners did a wonderful thing by setting up village clinics. That has to be reproduced. So this is where the T&TMA will come in. The Chamber of Commerce will help us with logistics. Companies that have their medical plan, their doctors, they will get vaccines. The private hospitals will get vaccines, as I said, and the public sector. What we will be doing is developing the SOPs, as I said, to be given out. After the first 2 to 3 weeks of the vaccination program, when we learn, because things will go wrong, things will happen, because we are scaling up rapidly. And all this simulation in the world, it doesn't reflect reality. So we expect there are going to be hiccups. Once we get through that initial phase of maybe 2-3 weeks, a month maximum, we will then roll out. We have identified 23 sites within the Ministry of Health, all the district health facilities. But once we get more doses in, and this is where T&TMA will come in, we have plans to roll out 4 mass vaccination sites. Mass vaccination sites. Imagine a polling booth on election day where you have 1 building, but you have 10 polling divisions. It is going to be like that, but bigger. But bigger. And the ministry does not have the personnel to man that. I will be coming and knocking on Vishal's door to get your volunteers to man those mass vaccination sites. Again, the objective is, because of these variants, to vaccinate as much of the population as soon as possible to make sure the variants don't get a hold in Trinidad and Tobago. That's the current science, the current thinking. So with those few words, I think the country is hearing this for the first time. It only happened 2 hours ago, and it is good news for small Trinidad and Tobago. Now, the AstraZeneca vaccine has one regulatory hurdle to cross. The correspondence I got from PAHO says, pending EUL from WHO. That is, it must get emergency use licensing first. But that seems at this point in time to be more formality than anything else. So we anticipate that AstraZeneca will get EUL very soon. We anticipate, according to the correspondence, that we'll be in receipt of 100 to 120,000 doses of vaccines by the end of February, early March. We already have 1 million plus syringes. We already have everything in place, freezer capacity, everything. And I look forward to working with the private sector, chambers of commerce, the private hospitals, T&TMA, pharmacy board, religion, everybody at this big symposium next week, Sunday at 1 p.m. So, incoming President, I am dropping this on your lap. You may be small in stature, but I think your shoulders are broad enough to handle this. And as I say, you'll be following in the footsteps of people like Dr. Edmund Shamley, who decades ago would have done this for the Yellow Fever Drive. So thank you all very much for the opportunity to be here. Congratulations to Dr. Edmund Shamley. Congratulations to George Shamley, for receiving his award tonight. And good luck to you, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, I know that you're a clinical pharmacist. I know that you're an educator, having taught in the School of Pharmacy at Mount Hope. We all know you're a fantastic Minister of Health. Somewhere along the lines, you've done fantastic management protocols and achieved management degrees, which we don't know about, because from the time you met this viral beast, you've managed to tame the beast so well with your vision and dexterity. We are heartened to hear about receiving the vaccine, the three-pronged attack to get the vaccine. We are heartened to hear how you're pushing it through a parallel public and private sector approach, and that you recognize that time is of the essence to reach the entire population. It is your vision and dexterity which has earned Trinidad and Tobago a place among the few countries winning the battle. On the web, Trinidad and Tobago beats Barbados and many of the other countries, and Trinidad and Tobago is recorded as winning the battle against the virus. We want to thank you very, very sincerely, because you have not distanced yourself from this association, and yet you have persisted with the message to distance from humans, but not humanity. Minister, we are deeply grateful. We thank you very much for being on board with the Medical Association of Trinidad and Tobago and helping us to help the people of the country. Thank you, Minister. One of the highlights of this occasion is the conferring of honors. And each year, 2 special members are recognized to receive the Scroll of Honor and the Gold Pin of Merit from the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association. The Scroll of Honor is awarded to a member who has shown outstanding ability to further the aims of the association and to enhance the image of the medical profession. This year, the T&TMA is very proud to present this tribute to Professor Hariharan Sitaraman, who is Professor of Anesthesia, but who has executed tremendous expertise in the field of critical care, management of the ICU, bioethics, and medical education. Professor Hariharan, we're going to invite you here to receive this honor, and this awardee is going to have a presidential introduction by none other than the reigning president of the association, Dr. Darren Dukaran. Dr. Dukaran and Professor Sitaraman, please do come forward. I want to be very clear about this protocol. I have the message right in front of me.
Thank you for that very kind introduction, Prof. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, with all protocols observed, I really wish you all a good evening, and it's good to be here. I have been asked to introduce Professor Hariharan Sitaraman as he receives the Scroll of Honor from the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association. Known fondly as Professor Harry, this outstanding gentleman has made his mark on the Caribbean medical fraternity for several decades. I must admit that after reviewing his 30-page CV that entails 5 postgraduate degrees, 23 administrative posts, 130 reviewed publications over the last 2 decades, 2 book chapters, and 1 partridge in a pear tree, that finding the words to describe this academic giant was a challenge even for myself. I will, however, recount the fabled 1987 story from an Indian medical school of a then student Hariharan, who topped his class after writing detailed final MBBS essays, including full references in the appropriate format and in chronological order. Professor Hariharan is well known to us as the fair and principled Secretary of the Medical Board of Trinidad and Tobago, and holds key posts at the University of the West Indies and several committees and societies across the Caribbean and internationally. His level of service goes beyond the boundary of medicine, with proficiency in music, which we will see tonight, linguistics, and philosophy. The most telling impact of Professor's work is on education. At the university, he has mentored a cadre of undergraduate and postgraduate students and has supervised research projects, academic requirements, and life support courses. It is here that he has made the biggest impact on this association. Taking over as editor-in-chief of the Caribbean Medical Journal in 2018, Professor Harry has revolutionized the scope and output of the journal through the establishment of a clear vision, promoting medical sciences and outlining key missions for each subgroup that works together. From the early days, he has set the tone for excellent scientific rigor and efficiency that we all aim to achieve in working under him. Professor Harry has spoken at several of our educational meetings on a wide range of topics, and dare I say, has mastered the art of explaining the ethical and legal ramifications of medical practice in the modern era. Professor has made multiple media appearances on behalf of the association in the last year and masterfully explains even the most complex science in a manner that is digestible to the viewing layperson and even healthcare workers. In this role, he often appears with the outgoing president of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association and is fondly referred to as the younger-looking one. No? All right, but Professor Hariharan Sitaraman is a gentleman, a scholar, a mentor, and most importantly, an exceptional human being. If I should liken him to a cricketer, it would actually be Mahendra Singh Dhoni of his beloved India, a fearless leader, intelligent beyond most, and driven by outcomes and success. In our culture, we believe in karma, the rewards of our past actions, and they lead us to where we are at now. And I can state with humility that it was good karma that allowed me to work under the supervision of this great man. As he accepts the scroll of honor from our great association, I am assured that he is well beyond a deserving recipient, and that the association is far better off for his contribution. Professor, congratulations.
That's true, Dr. Dukaran. I don't know how you managed to put all that Harry has done into such a précis. Harry is really a very worthy recipient of this award. And Harry, once more, congratulations very warmly from all of us and from our UE colleagues. And now we come to the highlighted highlight this evening. The Gold Pin of Merit is awarded to a long-serving member of the profession who has embraced all functions of the association and tenaciously strived to enrich the association. This year, the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association is delighted to present this accolade to a physician who's probably a household name in San Fernando, who, like Minister said, reaches out for family medicine before anything else, who puts service before self, and puts his patients first. I understand it was a unanimous choice to nominate Dr. George Chamberlain to this. Dr. Stacy Chamberlain had nothing to do with it, just to be very clear. So, again, the association is delighted to present this accolade to Dr. George Chamberlain. And to introduce this luminary, I am going to call upon, his brother, the invincible, incredible, inimical, indefatigable, inspiring Dr. Edmund Chamberlain. This is going to be nice, an icon recognizing and introducing another icon. The Doctor's Chamberlain, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, our minister, all protocols observed. Tonight, I have the pleasure and privilege of speaking on behalf of my brother, my younger brother, Dr. George Chamberlain, who is being honored for his contributions both to our association and to general practice. A true son of the South, George attended Boys RC School, then Presentation College in San Fernando, before pursuing a bachelor's degree at the University of Manitoba in Canada and then finally his medical degree at the University of the West Indies in Jamaica. He completed his training at the San Fernando General Hospital before venturing out into general practice in 1975, where he continued to serve the people of the South until COVID and Stacey mandated his retirement in March 2020. The age-old adage of behind every successful man lies a strong woman holds true in spades for George. He married his wife Patricia in 1973, and they had 4 lovely children, Peter, Tricia, Christopher, and Anna, now adults and with children of their own. His 5 grandsons and 3 granddaughters have brought a softness to George that made him say he wanted to retire long before the events of 2020 unfolded. A family man first and always, my brother has always advocated the importance of a cohesive unit when it comes to family, and he has supported and encouraged his children in all their educational and business pursuits. His wife, children, and grandchildren, and over 60 members of his extended family all over the world have joined us virtually to share in this accolades presented to him tonight. George is one of 7 siblings born to our Middle Eastern immigrant parents, Anthony and Jamily, who spoke no English on arrival to these shores. At the tender age of 6, George contributed hidden talents to the family business and was able to sell a customer a pair of left-sided shoes in our store on Mokarapo Street. Needless to say, when the gentleman returned the following day, it was not without unease that George went to hear what he had to say. To all our surprise, the customer did not admonish or complain as had been feared, but instead congratulated this little boy on his salesmanship and then offered to sell the family land at a fraction of the cost. Our father intervened at this point and took over negotiations from George. In Jamaica, the medical students, led by George, ran raffles and sold shirt jacks to raise funds for the student body. Upon his departure from UWI in Mona, it was said the student body coffers were tangible, and those that followed in his footsteps continued in the tradition. In fact, it was Anthony Chankit who followed in his footsteps. Joined the T&TMA soon after his internship and remains a member of the executive of the South Branch to date, attending national and council meetings until 2019. George was president of the association in 2010 and has been the chairman of the finance committee since then. He's known by the sobriquet Uncle George to the junior doctors on council, a title that stuck when his niece and our other partner in family practice, Stacey, would refer to him as such. During council meetings, Uncle George usually sits between 2 other stalwarts, Dr. Trinidad and Dr. Juman, and usually when crucial decisions have to be made, the younger council members could defer to the top right-hand corner trio to add wisdom to the discussion, and usually their sound advice would be heeded, especially when it came to matters of finance. Apart from this, George has participated in scores of outreach activities hosted by the South Branch, continues to attend monthly CMEs to keep relevant and up-to-date practice habits, and lends his gentle wisdom and advice to any young doctor in need of his support. His national service doesn't stop with the T&TMA, but includes being the chairman of Trinidad and Tobago Cancer Society from 1987 for 3 years, an organization he still holds support. He also was a past master in the Masonic fraternity. I was told not to mention that. Anyway, on a personal note, George and I have worked in general practice together for over 50 years and joined in the last decade by Stacey. We pride ourselves in it being a true family practice in every sense of the word, and over the years I can attest to his commitment to his patients, his work ethic, and discipline. Stationed in the office directly opposite to mine on the wharf, I would hear my brother wax poetic on his other loves of cricket, football and politics with his patients. His family moved to Port of Spain about 10 years ago, and despite this, George would make the drive south almost every day to continue his long-standing tradition of service in a profession he holds with great regard. I'm certain he'll make some comments about general practice after this. Since retirement, his patients continually say they miss this gentle nature, plenty old talk, his warmth, kindness, and reassurance. He continues to return home to South twice a week to update the books in the office and have lunch with our eldest brother Elias and myself, a tradition that was a daily occurrence for 40 years. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure and pride to present to you my brother, Dr. George Chambly.
honorees will usually respond, and I just thought we'd do them together. So, Harry, we want to call you up, and we're waiting to hear what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Pinto Pereira. I don't have the liberty to call you Lexley. I do because you're in our tradition. You know, we don't call the seniors by the first name, and only until they ask. Senior means like you were senior to me in UB. That's all. Yeah. Not by age, maybe. Right. So you know, even my contemporary age people, when they are my supervisors in UV, I don't call by first name. Anyway, I got a call, I received a call saying that I am receiving this scroll of honor with, I didn't believe first, but I thought, what have I done to receive this? But I'm extremely humbled and honored that, you know, I've been selected for this scroll of honor. And, you know, I don't know how much I have contributed, but I will definitely contribute more and more. And I'm extremely, you know, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. You know, you are picked from so many people, you know, to pick me. I'm really, really humbled. Thank you so much, and I do assure the TTMA that, you know, I will be with TTMA for the time I have to be every time, and you just a phone call away, and you can call me for everything, and we will take TTMA to newer heights. And thank you very much for the good news, you know, Minister, that, we are getting the vaccine and we will get the herd immunity. So thank you so much for announcing that in TTMA. And thank you everyone for having me. And I'm really honored and humbled. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pereira. All protocols observed. I have been in general practice for 46 years. 41 of those years in joint practice with my brother Edmund, and the last 15 when Stacy joined our practice. Collectively, we have approximately 115 years of experience in family medicine. Does that give me the privilege to say a few words about family medicine? I hope so, because it is my intention. In the mid-80s, I was going on vacation, and I asked a colleague of mine to help Ed in our practice while I was away. On my return, as per custom, I asked how was his experience and how did he manage. What he said, however, disturbed us, and it was the topic of conversation for many years with Ed and later with Stace. His remarks were, and I quote, "George, Ed and yourself, you all are not running a medical practice. You all are running a factory." Obviously, he said it tongue-in-cheek, but it bothered us. And it forced us to consider the obvious question. If we were seeing these numbers in a short period of time, were we doing justice to our patients? Like the clinicians we are, we analyzed our practice. And we concluded that really the majority of our patients have simple medical needs which can be easily resolved. Another large segment had the perception of medical concerns, but all they really needed was reassurance. Another group were simple follow-ups, and the workup had been done already, and I could continue on. But the conclusion we came to, which is a maxim in our practice, we said that the mark of a good general practitioner is his or her ability to recognize a serious medical problem when that problem sits in front of you. Then time and speed becomes irrelevant. The next piece of information I would like to report is that we, in our discussion, recognized that we all have limitations. We don't know everything. And there's no shame if you have concerns to refer to an institution or a consultant who would be better able to provide a higher standard of care. I've alluded to the fact that we had, I suppose we still have, a large practice. We had a non-appointment practice. We saw any and everyone who was willing to wait to see us. And we attributed, if numbers be the criteria for success, we attributed that to the 4 A's of medicine, and I have intoned this to our incoming president. They are ability. Yes, we are all trained to practice family medicine, and we are all competent to do this. But we have to remember that medicine is an ever-changing science, and we need to keep updated. Yes, Mr. Honorable Minister of Health, continuing medical education should be made mandatory in Trinidad and Tobago. Availability. Now, we're talking 4 A's of general practice. Availability. If you have office hours, make sure you're there, even if there are no clients waiting to see you. Affability. Know your patients. Relate to your patients. It is not only about medicine. You have to be able to ask about their other partner, their children. Patients must understand that this is not only a medical visit. I have advocated, I shouldn't say I, whatever I say tonight is a reflection of what Ed, Stace, and myself would say. We have always advocated that in general practice, justice must not always be done, it must appear to be done. A patient sits in front of you and you take a history. You have already made up your mind what is wrong with that patient and probably what the treatment is going to be. However, the words, justice must appear to be done, complete the physical examination. The other watchword is communication. Make sure your patients understand what you are doing and why you're doing it. Medical litigation is becoming prevalent in our country. If a patient recognizes that you are doing your best, then that becomes a non-entity. Lastly, affordability. Affordability. Medicine offers all of us a comfortable living. Let us not make money the reason why we go into medicine, and money be the focus around which we practice medicine. I have been a member of this association for the last 46 years. In my early years in Manitoba in the early 60s, I was touched by the words of the late John F. Kennedy. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And I perceived that any organization I went into, I was going to give rather than receive. How wrong was I when I joined the medical association? How wrong was I? Because I received far more than I ever gave. I was taught planning, coordination, execution, accounting by men and women of stature. I was afforded the opportunity to have a voice in the medical issues facing our country. I was allowed to socialize with the paragons of our profession, who were really, in effect, the paragons of our society. Men and women of integrity, eloquence. When I received the call that I was to be honored by this association, I became emotional. I have been privy to know and hear from these past honorees. What did I do to deserve to be put in the same class with these people. I'll be at the back of the class. But I felt humbled. I felt privileged. And it is indeed an honor and a privilege, and I accept with great humility. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both our honorees for these responses. I always thought it was very difficult to make decisions on who should get these prestigious awards. But hearing about Professor Harry and Dr. George, I think it must have been a piece of cake for the TTMA to give these two celebrities recognition today. Ladies and gentlemen, I do think that needs another round of applause for both of them. We're now going to be entertained by one of the awardees. And if you thought Professor Hari was just there publishing 130 odd papers and administering oxygen and putting people to sleep with halothane, etc. No. He is a musical aficionado. He excels at pan. I don't know why he's not doing pan today, but he's today going to entertain us with his skills at the tabla. Professor Hari, the floor is yours.
My first name, with your permission. Thank you, Lexley. The tabla is usually an accompanying instrument, but I think Vichy, because of the numbers we have, we couldn't get more musicians, and I will try my best to demonstrate how tabla is being played. When you play tabla on your own, you have to be a really, like Zakir Hussain, who can, do tabla on their own. So I'm just an amateur player, so forgive me, but I will just try to demonstrate some tals.
That was marvelous. Thank you. You could have done both, pan and tabla. I'm now going to invite Dr. Darren Dukaran to present his address as the outgoing president of the association. Dr. Dukaran? Sorry.
Honorable Minister of Health, Mr. T&TMA, it's certainly a pleasure to have you back for another 5 years. It is, I say that with reference to Stacey's comments last year, for which I sincerely apologize. It is difficult to follow Professor Harry and Uncle George just before I start. That was very heartwarming, and I sincerely appreciate you and everything that you have done. So to the Honorable Minister of Health, Mr. T&TMA, our deserving honorees for the year 2021, Dr. George Shamley and Professor Harry Haran Sitaraman, Lady Patroness, Mrs. Alia Hassan Ali, who I understand is tuned in virtually, the incoming President, Dr. Vishy Bihari, the incoming and outgoing executives, and guests both in person and virtually, good evening. It is my pleasure to speak to you all as the outgoing president of this august association that seeks to teach, treat, mentor, and advocate to and on behalf of the physicians and people of our great republic. Let me begin by explicitly expressing my thanks to all of the outstanding servants of T&TMA over the decades. To all of you who accepted the challenge of office in 2020, I thank you for the work that was performed on behalf of this association during the difficult 12 months that we endured, while balancing between the pleasure of serving in office and delivering high-quality healthcare at the various institutions that we all represent. This year has not been normal. And although I began 2020 singing the song of Let It Be by the Beatles, I ended 2020 by singing another song, written by Logic and Eminem, the name of which I shudder to mention in the virtual presence of Dr. Maria Dillon Remy. Indeed, like a good Star Wars trilogy, I would describe this year as a little confusing, as many things happened out of order, but they prompted significant repositioning of strategic goals. When we were faced with questions about the pandemic, difficult colleagues, and unfortunate losses within the fraternity, the media and the public turned to us for opinion and leadership. And I can earnestly only hope that we provided this with both clarity and distinction. In formulating the extensive list of persons who I would like to acknowledge today, it would be remiss of me not to begin by pointing out the end product of 2020. As an organization, we know what our strengths and weaknesses are and have worked hard during the year to adjust to and embrace the opportunities that have arisen. In the face of a significant external threat to our profession, I believe that we have produced a diamond in the rough through perseverance and an analytical approach. In a recent BBC analysis of critical thinking, 4 elements were described that I will use to justify my premise that the T&TMA has evolved throughout the pandemic, and to validate my conclusion that it was indeed because of the strength and unity of this family. Firstly, critical thinking requires an avoidance of confirmation bias. As physicians, we are bombarded with information from a spectrum of sources, and the pandemic accelerated, as Minister will tell you, both information and disinformation. The T&TMA's editorial committee persisted with frequent publications of the Caribbean Medical Journal. Professor Harry Haran and team pivoted to deliver a fully online, peer-reviewed, open access service, which is nearing DOAJ and PubMed indexing. In addition to this, our advocacy arm produced multiple social media posts with carefully researched messages to support the work of the Ministry of Health. Secondly, critical thinking requires an embrace of nuances and complexities. As physicians, we are bombarded with novel technology, scientific advances, and workplace challenges. The T&TMA's Education Committee persisted with our education programs. Dr. Arthur, Dr. Shamley, and Mr. Bainey, who is in the back here tonight, and the team successfully pivoted to deliver a wide spectrum of fully virtual monthly CMEs and an international conference in conjunction with the Trinidad and Tobago Emergency Medicine Association. Thirdly, critical thinking requires intellectual humility and leadership. As physicians, we are bombarded with public perception and a cadre of juniors in need of guidance. The T&TMA's Leadership Committee persisted with our training and mentorship programs, and Dr. Maria Dillon Remy, Dr. De La Rosa, and Dr. Sophia Mohammed with their team successfully pivoted to continue the John Maxwell courses, as well as coordinated multiple sessions with the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Students Association. Finally, critical thinking requires avoiding fallacies. As physicians, we are bombarded with elements of groupthink that can complacently allow us to accept current events as normal. I owe the T&TMA's core committee of 2020 a debt of gratitude for always fostering an environment of constructive critique for things as they unfolded around us. Whether it was Keegan Baggan's somewhat uncanny knowledge of the law, Mayo's deep insight into social justice, Stacey's never-ending quest to ensure equity, and Vishy's ability to levitate beyond the mundane. That was upon, yes. I was always assured that the 3 a.m. WhatsApp ding was always about something meaningful, whether it was about insurance for our membership, the Cannabis Committee, the meetings with the University of the West Indies, or the Medical Board, and that the points would always be cogent and sincere. There are, of course, so many more examples, and from Maya and Dr. Ramuta in the House Committee, Uncle George and Uncle Edmund in the Finance Committee, Megan, Andre, Jonathan in the Youth Committee, Carissa in Membership, and Martina in Branding, and you must forgive me if I have left anybody out. Everyone played an important role. Many thanks to all who assisted with the functions of our association at an international, national, and branch level. Specifically to the Ministry of Health, Minister Diyal Singh, thank you. CMO Parashram, thank you. And to my BFF, Dr. Ade Serju Singh, thank you. I send thanks for including the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association at all points during the pandemic response. To the Commonwealth Medical Association and the President, Dr. Osha Horn from Nigeria, I send thanks for including us during their pandemic seminars. To the Express House and Ms. Sharon Hamilton Kajo, I send thanks for allowing us time to voice our concerns on the morning edition and evening news. To the staff of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association House and the unmentioned sometimes work of Mala, Annalisa, Alina, and Keegan Bainey, I send thanks for supporting all of our functions, sometimes in our absence. To all of the branches that executed our core functions, I send my thanks. And to the East Branch in particular for allowing me to serve as president. Never will I forget the humble beginnings of a branch formed in a small common room at the Sangre Grande Hospital that was indeed formed through the inspiration of Dr. Stacey Shamley and Dr. Vishy Bihari. It was built by the blood and sweat of colleagues like Dr. Karima Ali, Dr. Kiel Green, Dr. Leo Danlag and his wife Christy, Dr. Rajiv Bagalu, Dr. Tisha Pear, Dr. Cindy Badlu, and Dr. Davin Powder, and dozens more who volunteered at every call to remote outreaches at any part of the country in medical clinics from Toko to Mayaro. So yes, Minister, we are on board and we will be with you. This group has proudly handed over now to our younglings. And that was another Star Wars reference for you. My final and greatest thanks tonight to my family, who supported me throughout the year from the time of my inauguration to this very end. This year for me was only possible because of the sacrifice of my lovely wife, Dr. Karima Ali, and my baby, Zachary. I give thanks for the incessant support of my parents, brother, and in-laws. The truth is that many prayers have been spoken during my presidency, and the comfort of my Lord has made the year more bearable. As such, It is with the heaviest of hearts that I officially dedicate my year in office as president of the T&TMA to the memory of healthcare workers across the globe who sacrifice their lives in the service to others. I equally acknowledge healthcare workers across the globe who have been forced to make significant personal sacrifices to ensure the continuation of healthcare systems and indeed the human race. President Biden, on the eve of his inauguration, stated that Delaware would be written on his heart the day that he died. Similarly, my heart will always have the ethos of this great association scripted upon it. I pray that the justice that we stand for will never be miscarried, and I extend my sincerest support and best wishes to Dr. Vishy Bihari and the incoming team. Thank you all, and to all a good night.
Thank you very much, Darren. Indeed, you put the Medical Association of Trinidad and Tobago on the Commonwealth tapestry, and your voice was heard among the media and the professionals in the country. Clearly, you have set the bar pretty high. I saw Vishy looking at your shoe size. I think he's trying to see that he will fit into your shoes. And now it is my task to read to the membership present and the virtual membership the list of executive members. So the president for the executive of 2021 is Dr. Vishy Bihari. The immediate past president is Dr. Darren Dukaram. The president-elect for 2022 is Dr. Marissa Nimrod. The first vice president, Dr. Damien Bastio. The second vice president, Dr. Raisa Javez. The third vice president, Dr. Mariam Mohammed. The fourth vice president, Dr. Sarah Sampath, and the fifth vice president, Dr. Hasina Mohammed. The secretary is also Dr. Sarah Sampath. The treasurer is Dr. Stacy Chamley, and the public relations officer is Dr. Keegan Bagan. The chair for the North is Dr. Jayan Bob. For the East, Dr. Sunita Sudama. For Tobago, Dr. Angelo Toussaint. For South, Dr. Patrick Chinkong. And for Central is Dr. Maya Blackman. And of course, we cannot forget an honorary member in the presence of Mrs. Zalia Hassan Ali, who's tuned in online. We're now going to have the installation of the president, and I'm requesting Dr. Darren Dukaran and Dr. Vishy Bihari to please come center stage and hand over. So that was the investiture of the new president. We just want to tell you, Dr. Darren Dukaran, that you continue to be on board as the immediate past president, so we'll still be knocking on your doors. Congratulations, Dr. Vishy Bihari, on taking over as the president of the association for 2021. Now, I'm going to ask Dr. George Chamley to please come up and administer the oath of office.
The oath of allegiance. I,
Dr. Vishnu Bihari, President of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association in the year 2021.
I, Dr. Darren Dukiram, immediate past president of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association in the year 2021.
I, Dr. Stacy Shamley, the Treasurer of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association in the year 2021.
do solemnly pledge
Do solemnly pledge
to uphold
to uphold
the aims, objectives, and ideals of the association
the aims, objectives, and ideals of the association
as enshrined in the Constitution.
as enshrined in the Constitution.
I will do my best
I will do
My best
to serve with honesty,
to serve with honesty,
integrity,
integrity,
and fairness
and fairness,
so that the image of the medical profession
so that the image of the medical profession
is enhanced and embellished
is enhanced and embellished
by all who serve with me on council.
by all who serve with me on council.
I further pledge
I further pledge
that during my term of office,
that during my term of office,
I will continue the great traditions
I will continue the great traditions
of those who have served before me
of those who have served before me
and set the standard for those
and set the standard for those
who are to succeed me.
who are to succeed me.
All this I do pledge
All this I do pledge
as I accept the chain of office.
as I accept this
chain
appointment.
of office.
And now, it's something we're all been looking forward to the entire evening, to hear from our incoming president, Dr. Vishy Bihari. Oh, it's continuing. Right. Excuse me, so that's continuing the oath.
I, Dr. J.R. Bob, North Branch Chair of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association in the year 2021.
Dr. Marissa Nimar, President-elect of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association in the year 2021.
Dr. Hasina Mohammed, 5th Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association in the year 2021.
Dr. Angelo Toussaint, Tobago Branch Chair of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association in the year 2021.
Dr. Sunita Stama, East Branch Chair of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association in the year 2021.
Dr. Sarah Samput, Secretary and 4th Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association in the year 2021.
Dr. Isa Zubi, 2nd Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association in the year 2021.
Dr. Patrick Chinkong, South Branch Chair of Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association in the year 2021.
Dr. Mariam Mohammed, 3rd Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association in the year 2021.
Dr. Maya Blackman, Central Branch Chair of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association in the year 2021.
Dr. Keegan Bagan, Public Relations Officer of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association in the year 2021.
Dr. Damian Masdale, First Vice President of Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association.
Do solemnly pledge to uphold the aims,
Objectives and ideals of the association
as enshrined in the Constitution.
I will do my best to serve
With honesty, integrity, and fairness,
so that the image of the medical profession is enhanced
and embellished by all those who serve with me on council.
I further pledge that during my term of office,
I will continue the great traditions of those who served before me
and set the standard
For those who are to succeed me.
All this I do pledge as I accept the chain of office.
Very nice. And now we have the address, the first address of our new president, for 2021, Dr. Vishy Bihari. Dr. Bihari.
A pleasant good evening. I acknowledge and adopt all protocols previously established. I bring greetings and I bow to the divinity in each of you. It is no less than an honor and a privilege to have been elected by you, my colleagues, to serve in this capacity as the President of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association. I wish to express my sincere gratitude to all of you for having the confidence in me to lead this great association. In this challenging time, it is no doubt that we are at a turning point in this journey of continuing to build the legacy of this association. We all know that it was not easy steering this ship in 2020. I expect it to be no less of a challenge going into 2021 as we continue to face the exigency of the pandemic. Let me take you back to the year 2008. While I was in medical school, I spoke at a meeting of the Medical Sciences Concerts for Charity. After that meeting, a beautiful young lady approached me and began a conversation about student representation, or lack thereof. And we became friends thereafter. Fast forward 2 years later, in 2010, I said to this beautiful young lady, who is now my wife, no, I did not say let's get married. I said, this is the year we must bring back the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Students Association, which was defunct for some time. And this was done some months later. And so our journey to T&TMA began as we discovered the history of a relationship between the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Students Association and the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association. One of our lecturers, whom we both have great respect for, a stalwart and no stranger to the T&TMA, Dr. Sulaiman Juman, in December of 2010, gave me 2 tickets and said, we would like you to attend this function. So my friend at that time, being the president and me being the immediate past president of the Medical Students Association, represented our colleagues and attended the annual Christmas dinner of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association. It was after this encounter our relationship with T&TMA began. We continued to build this relationship with the T&TMA through our time in T&TMSA, and we supported the T&TMA dinners, interns dinners of 2010, 2011, 2012, among many other partnerships between both associations. Thereafter, our transition to the T&TMA was almost automatic. Having had a rapport with members of the association for almost 2 years before joining the association, it made it very easy for us to fall into committees and assist when called upon to do so. Thereafter, my involvement in the association grew exponentially as I was asked to serve on several committees. And over the past 7 years, as a member of the T&TMA, I have served on many committees, including but not limited to membership, youth, house, honors, constitution and bylaws, and education committee. I also served as the secretary of the association, vice president of the association, and of course at the branch level, branch chairperson twice, council member for the branch treasurer, and branch secretary. My journey thus far was a great learning experience. And though it has just started, it certainly, over the last 7 years, has prepared me to accept this office today. I am by no means an expert, nor do I promise that I can fill the shoes of those great leaders who have gone before me. What stood out to me in the past 7 years is the support and guidance, and most importantly, the motivation and leadership provided by stalwarts and other members of our association. This I will endeavor best to offer to you, our membership. T&TMA is not necessarily a perfect organization, and like many other organizations or institutions, will go through cycles of growth, cycles of reorganization, cycles of adjustment. While 2020 moving into 2021 is certainly no different from those cycles, it certainly is a time for us to reflect on where we are as an association and where we wish to go in the future. Having been given the mantle of leadership of this great association, I do not promise to transform the association overnight. I do not promise great things. I do not promise new projects and new initiatives that we all expect. But I do promise to listen. I do promise that I will learn and that I will lead. The T&TMA over the years have become an institution of teaching, treating, mentoring, and advocating. In 2021 and beyond, we propose to continue to teach, treat, mentor, and advocate. And we will continue to provide our high-quality continuing medical education programs. Despite how lucky we are as a country facing this pandemic, it has certainly shown us that mental health is quite crucial. And so, in this coming year, we hope to continue to support our colleagues by promoting mental wellness and prevention of health worker burnout. We will continue our mentorship initiatives. We will continue to guide our younger colleagues, and in particular, we will continue to build that fruitful relationship with the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Students Association so that the transition from T&TMSA will be as smooth and as easy as it was for myself and my wife. We will continue to advocate on behalf of our patients, on behalf of our colleagues. We will continue to advocate in the time of this pandemic in support of public health measures. We will continue to advocate in support of vaccinations. We will continue to advocacy in all areas of medicine like we have done over the years, so graciously. We also stand ready to support the Ministry of Health in mass vaccination drives, vaccine sensitization sessions when the time is right, and we also stand ready to assist in making blood donation 100% voluntary. I also wish to assure you that we at the T&TMA have an open door policy for partnerships and networking of groups of other medical professionals in Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbean, the Commonwealth, and the world at large. To all my colleagues, whether you are a member of T&TMA or not, you have been working hard throughout this pandemic. You have been sacrificing family for work. Many of you have moved to temporary living spaces to not expose your vulnerable family members, and so much more sacrifices, too many to mention. We acknowledge and salute you for your hard work and sacrifices for our great nation. The road ahead is still long, and thus I implore you not to give up. This is the time for us to unite. This is the time for us to work together. We are all in this pandemic together, and moving forward, you have our full support of the T&TMA. Let us, in this coming year, network more amongst our professional groups and societies within medicine. Let us find support in each other, and let us work together to advance our profession with dignity and integrity. I end with a quote by the late Mahatma Gandhi, whose death anniversary, by the way, is today. Purely coincidence that we're using the Mahatma Gandhi Institute for Cultural Cooperation. And I quote, "It is health that is real wealth, and not pieces of gold and silver." I thank you, and I am at your service in this coming year.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bihari. That was a speech full of humility, endeavor. I thought the best part of it was that you said you're not making great promises, but like Mark Anthony, you're going to lend your ears and listen very avidly to what is coming out from the community and the membership. I think T&TMA is in very strong hands with Dr. Bihari as the new president. He's always been in a leadership role, even when he was in medical school. We sat and did a new curriculum together. And I think it's not just like Biden said, written on his heart. I think it's engraved in your myocardial syncytium, T&TMA. So congratulations again from the entire body of the Medical Association. We now have the Loyal Pledge by Dr. Suleiman Juman.
Honored guests, friends, colleagues, please stand. We are in an age of COVID. We are in an age of fear, of anxiety. Lives have been lost, jobs have been lost. We need to remember how to hope, how to love, how to dream, how to live life to the max, how to be Trinbagonian. Ladies and gentlemen, to our cherished Twin Island state, a toast to our beloved Trinidad and Tobago. Shalom.
And that brings us to the end of the proceedings of today. And it can only end with two very beautiful words: thank you. And for that, I'm going to request Dr. Stacey Chamley to come up to thank everybody on behalf of the association and to present the tokens. Stacey.
Good evening, everyone. All protocols observed. I'm actually going to leave my mic on because I'm not as handy as Dr. Pinto Pereira, whom I will never forget with the spritzing of the mic, but also because I'm going to be asking persons to come up to the front to present small tokens and therefore to encourage the social distancing. And because I couldn't find my lipstick. Who's used lipstick for the last 1 year? I just couldn't find any today. I borrowed eyeliner from Dr. Bihari and I couldn't find, okay. So my name is Dr. Shamli. I'm Stacey, and it is my honor and privilege to move the vote of thanks tonight for this most unique but yet no less remarkable evening. Let me start off by asking the Honorable Minister to join us tonight, and I will ask the newly inducted President, Dr. Vichy Bihari, to give you a token on our behalf for your wife, because, you know, we miss having her here. So on behalf of all of us, Dr. Lois, you may as well be after this year. On behalf of all of us, Mr. Minister, you have not only supported and included us in the last 5 years, but we look forward to continue working with you as you and I both go even more grey than we have been as we continue this work together. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Minister, for being with us tonight. Somewhere at home, the First Lady of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association is looking on in the company of Dr. Dev Ramuttar. Mrs. Hassan Ali, we miss you tonight. I hope you know that we appreciate you and we love the fact that you're always our First Lady. Mr. Zalia Hassan Ali, the former First Lady of Trinidad and Tobago and the only honorary member of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association, thank you as always for gracing us with your presence, ma'am. And to Dr. Dev Ramuttar, who is all things for this association, for all members, thank you, sir, for taking our small token of appreciation to Mrs. Hassan Ali and staying with her to allow her to view the proceedings tonight. Thanks, Dr. Dev. You're a real trooper as always. The First Lady of this evening, Professor Lexley Pinto Pereira, I'd like to ask you to join us at the podium And I'm going to ask her longtime friend, Professor Harry, who will not call her by first name, but will honor her with a token on our behalf for leading us masterfully through tonight's proceedings in your most elegant and ladylike way. Thank you, Professor, for being with us. Thank you very much. Thanks, Professor. Both our honorees are here tonight, but unfortunately, because of COVID protocols, their lovely wives cannot be. That being said, we never forget the spouses of the people we honor, because it is because of their sacrifice that you as colleagues can achieve what you do. And so we'd like to ask Dr. Dukiram to present to Professor Harry a token on our behalf for his spouse, and a token of gratitude from all of us as we congratulate you and thank you, sir, for service well rendered. No hugs? Thank you. And I will ask Professor Pereira, with your permission, to present Dr. George Shamley with a token for Mrs. Patricia Shamley for her support of Dr. Shamley, as he has tirelessly worked for too many years to be counted. Thank you, Dr. George. Thank you. Tonight we also want to give thanks to two unique gentlemen whom I've had the privilege to stand with over the last, for Vichy it's 7 years and for Darren it's 6. Well, it was 4 before and then a lot more than that. For two, we won't divulge. To Vichy and Darren, who I've stood with and served alongside, and it has been my privilege to do so. So I'm going to actually let you guys present each other for your wives, since that is your custom, since the four of you seem to be a dynamic group. And I want to thank Miriam Mohammed and Karima Ali for putting up with this bromance that has been going on for many, many, many years. To Darren and Vichy, for your respective wives, thank you so much for your service. And thank you to your spouses for putting up with your crazy antics. My congratulations to Darren for a year well spent, and I look forward to serving with you again, Vichy, for this coming year. To the Mahatma Gandhi Institute for Cultural Cooperation for allowing us to be here, decorations by Mystical Magical Moments. It was difficult for us to only have 10 people, Mr. Minister, but we were intent on observing the letter of the law. But we felt that it must not be brought off with any less finesse, as we've all grown accustomed to for this auspicious event. So we want to thank everybody for making the efforts. Refreshments by Priya's Cuisine that you'll all take away with you when you're going. Security by Universal Protective Services. And there are some gentlemen behind the scenes that have made the virtual live streaming of this event on our website, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Zoom possible. I gather we have 123 people logged in, and that does not include the people who've gathered in groups, and I certainly know the Shamley clan have been gathering in their own homes in groups across the world, to be honest. And I'm sure Professor Harry's family in India in a similar manner. So to all of you at Majestic Visuals, DJ Black Sheep, I can't believe I said that with a straight face, the indomitable Keegan Bainey, who has been the backbone of all things AV at the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association, and who has truly brought us into the 21st century, kicking and screaming at some times. And to Dr. Anderson Singh, Handsome Anderson, who produced the video that you saw this morning at the T&TMA headquarters and spliced it together so that all of us could feel a part of the oath of office. Our sincere thanks to you all. And I just want to mention the inauguration team, who for the last couple of weeks have put up with Vichy's 2 in the morning texts, His wife, Dr. Miriam Mohammed, who did a lot of the running around with him. Dr. Chrissy Ramsingh, who reached out to a lot of the stalwarts and ensured that those who were maybe a little bit technically challenged had somebody with them so that they could live stream. I understand Christy, Tiffany, and Dr. Roma Joseph are all having high tea right now with social distancing at Dr. Joseph's home to allow her to enjoy tonight. Dr. Rachel Spam and Dr. Andre Earl, who came to meet Dr. Bihari at some ungodly hour last night to bring some of the paraphernalia from last year's inauguration to make sure that we could brand tonight's events. Dr. Sarah Sampath, who wrote and rewrote and then wrote again letters reflecting the changes that we were making as we went along in the planning, the logistics of this event. Dr. Jamila Daniel, Dr. Karima Ali, and in particular, I want to point out Dr. Brilliant Sami. I think she revised the program at least 25 times and never complained. At one point, even I wanted to tap Dr. Bihari for his minutiae and attention to detail, but Dr. Brilliant Sami really, with a smile on her face, made all the changes and has made tonight's event run as smoothly as you have seen. And on behalf of Dr. Maya Blackman, the Central Branch chairperson for this year, who in truth and in fact is the host of tonight's event, I want to thank each of you who are here with us tonight for joining us and for spending, especially Mr. Minister, I know you're exhausted. I know so, we're all exhausted. And we salute you and your team because what we do mirrors the efforts that you guys are putting in. And we hope we're matching you beat to beat, and it is our privilege to do so, sir. So to all of you who are here tonight, and for all of you who are home looking on, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your efforts. The Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association are with you all. We're here to support you in any way that we can. We want to thank you all for being with us tonight, and we look forward to having you join us for the rest of the year as we continue to do what we do best as a fraternity. My sincere thanks to everyone. Good night.
So if the most two beautiful words in the English language are thank you, and Stace has done that very eloquently to everybody who deserves those special words. I want to take this just 2 minutes more of your time because Stacy has this remarkable habit of being mercurial and she thanks everybody and then she just disappears. I'm not going to let her do that this time because somebody has to thank this strong, wonderful, supportive woman who has often been the spine of the association. She's a celebrity in her own right, she's a stalwart in the profession, and she's the live wire on the association. And today, on behalf of the members of Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association, we really want to thank you, Dr. Stacey Shamley, for all that you do for the association. And I'm going to call upon President Vichy to inaugurate his presidentship with the first task of giving Stacey a thank you token. Thank you all. Sneaky.